live. Welcome to Mild Sauce Live. I'm Jake Krez. We're here at Soundscape Studios, the legendary Soundscape Studios. Thank you, shout out to Mike Kolar for the hookup. And tonight, I'm pleased to have a special guest. We have Eddie Esquire Sanders. The crowd goes crazy. Thank you for coming out tonight, man.
No, man. Thank you for having me.
Getting trudging through the snow for us a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just cold, but I'm Chicago, so I'm used to it already.
I feel you, but the snowstorm in like late October just kind of broke my spirit already.
I don't know, man. If you're from Chicago, and we're
not gonna start by talking about the weather too much, but
I feel you. But you just gotta be like, all right, bro, it's cold time. It's cold time.
Yeah, I know you definitely just get into that mentality, but here we are. Mike Kolar opened up the Studio B for us.
Yes.
Come chop it up. It has been for those of you who might not know Eddie, I don't know how you don't, but if you don't, the man has been around the game here in Chicago for about 15 years or so. I mean, I might be aging you on that, but
it's cool.
I just threw a 15 out there.
I mean, we round up around here anyway.
Solid
so
15, yeah. Working as a lawyer, been a DJ, been just about everything. We talk about a Chicagoan in the cold. Chicagoan also is usually very multifaceted, and I think that also describes how you've kind of maneuvered over this time.
Done a lot. I mean, like manager, security, DJ, like whatever. It's been a lot of facets.
I feel like you've gone out in Chicago in the last like 10 years. You've seen you in a multitude of different situations.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird. And then there's a gang of people that know me just as a bartender.
Right.
You know what I'm
East
saying?
Room.
Yeah, so it's like.
So this last Friday, you celebrated 10 years of
practicing law.
I was going to say lawyering. I don't know if
I mean, I guess that can work as well. So November 2009, I was sworn in. Okay. So that makes 10 years.
And for those who might not know, what kind of law, I'm terrible with my law terms. I should have brushed up on this beforehand, but what kind of law do you practice? I mean, a lot of it is entertainment law, right? It's, working with artists, stuff like that.
It all surrounds around, we consider IP, intellectual property law. So just protection and copyrights and trademarks is pretty much the mainstay of my practice, but that is what you would call entertainment or music law.
Okay, and how has that changed? Kind of, I assume like when you started doing this, like BBU is one of the first acts you worked with, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. Shout out BBU, historic Chicago act. But you start out like back then, and the music has changed a lot, right? Like we went from it was kind of the end of physical days, but it's really gone hard into digital now.
Yeah.
How has the work you've done changed through that?
I mean, like this when I first started, we really didn't have language that accompanied the technology. Mm-hmm. So we saw the birth of the titles, the Spotify, the Apple Musics, but the contracts that artists were getting into didn't equate for these numbers. Mm-hmm. So now you're seeing a growth of stream and everybody going to streaming, but on one side the artist not getting compensated and also being stuck in their deal because these numbers don't even register towards their total.
Right, or like the Billboard numbers, all that kind of stuff.
Right. So just seeing that was like the main change of like, the agreement's starting to catch up with the technology because the technology is moving so fast, you know.
Was it, I mean, especially working here in Chicago, where there were so many independent acts as well, was there a different kind of niche that you found as well? Was there those obviously we're not looking for like wording in the agreements, but were those agreements different in a way because of the nature of the artists that were around the city at the time?
Are you saying like as far as
not signing a deal maybe with like a major, kind of having to operate on like a different kind of situation or more?
But then that's when we started seeing the birth of like these empires and AWOLs and different distribution companies that were coming in trying and selling the artists and letting them know like, oh, you're still technically independent, you own your masters, but we're just going to distribute for you.
Right.
Then they started seeing the success in that, and now they're becoming labels as well, like this quasi-label now. So on the independent end, you still had to get your music protected, and if you're working with another producer, you still had to get some type of agreement making sure that your splits were right between you and the producer. So I still had to handle that on the independent level.
Okay. So at the end of the day, has it changed that much? Like how much is
Not really. I mean,
like in the 10 years you've been, is like
as far as like the nature of like what we're exchanging, as far as like the copyright splits and all that really hasn't changed. Now we are looking at more money.
Right.
So now
which is good.
Right, which is good. So now, because a lot of my work is on the end of the producer, making sure the producer is paid. So now I have to be aware of all the revenue streams that are accompanied with this stream and being able to make sure my producer gets his percentage on all of that, you know.
Yeah, and also, I mean, working with producers like that, I mean, you have to be like the favorite person in the studio every time you come through. Like producers for years were struggling to get those numbers and stuff, all that.
Definitely struggling to get numbers, struggling to get credit.
Mm-hmm.
Also engineers as well.
Yeah.
So now I'm glad to see like a lot of these platforms starting to actually show credit of who these guys are, because they need it for their portfolio as well. You know,
Right.
they go out and do this huge record, and all we do is see the artist name. It's like, no, 50% of this jam is the beat, so we need to recognize that for the producer.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's gone back and forth. But I think somebody who, in Chicago at least, who's really like stepped out, and you say like that's part of their portfolio as well, is Elton over at Classic. I mean, I remember when he was doing all the acid rap stuff. He was wondering how to get his name out, how to kind of take ownership of that. And I think in the time since, you've really seen him establish himself, which has been really fun to watch. That's kind of like goes into like what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, you saw like he just recently did the master, like the Baby's whole project.
That was it.
Yeah. So then it comes out and doesn't say anything. Then he's instantly on it. And now you see like mastered by Elton, because was that the #1 album when it came out?
It had to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Kurt.
Definitely need that credit.
You know? Right. Yeah. And it is cool. So people like you are kind of the ones that are championing for these types of.
Definitely, I'm always behind like the content creator getting their credit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you applied something to a record, you should get your credit on that. You know, so I'm not the one that creates, but I just want to make sure the actual creator is protected. You know?
We got you got a little freestyle to it. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, that's a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Goodbar days.
Yeah.
But yeah, no more rapping.
No more rapping?
No,
we can't put a beat on right now.
No, that's definitely not happening. Especially that we're live in this recording. You're not trapping me on that. Nah.
We shouldn't have told you. We would have just got it. What's something that's happening right now, like a trend you're seeing kind of come about that is maybe something we're not thinking about now that might be really big in a couple years? Is there anything you're kind of seeing little bits of? It seems like the industry is kind of reasserting itself to a degree.
These shorter songs.
Everyone's been saying that. What, like the Tierra Whack version of everything?
Because now it only takes so much for one song to register. So imagine if I put out a 15-minute album and it still counts as an album towards my credit. Right. You put out a 60-minute album, right? In an hour, how many streams can I get compared to how many streams you can get?
Right. Well, that was the whole Tierra Whack thing too.
So
right?
so now people realize they're like, we don't have to put out these long songs to count towards these numbers. We can put out these minute and a half songs. So I think we're going to see a bigger and bigger trend of like just super short projects, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm like both sided on that. I think like the Tierra Whack thing was genius in the way that she put it together with the videos, and it was all very manicured. I don't know that I'm excited for minute-long songs.
I mean, if they're hot, like the Baby Keem project just came out. He probably longest song on it was like 2:30, 2:40 or something like that.
I guess it's kind of like punk rock, like, you know, the songs.
Just
like
get in, get out with it, and because sometimes songs are too long. But I'm not here to decide what the creator should do with their content, but like that's just a trend I see, and a lot of this is coming because of the agreements that people are in and trying to meet these numbers. You know what I'm saying? Like shorter songs work in the streaming era,
and it only works because of like everything you kind of been talking about, right? Like all the kind of wins or the back and forth between the agreements and stuff. Now it's the point where you couldn't have put out a minute song 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, because they had in a lot of those agreements it had how long each record had to be. Now
from the record label?
Yeah, the record label would say the record has to be a certain amount to count as an actual master.
Oh, see, I thought that would have been like an RA thing, or like they said it had to be like a certain to like register or something like that.
No, it's coming from the label. So
that's interesting.
The label wants longer songs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is there a reason for that?
Well, back then, I mean, that was pre-streaming, so they just wanted to make sure.
Oh, they just wanted, yeah,
to make sure you
the longer you're on. Yeah. Damn, that is crazy. It really has evolved over the years. So outside of that, I mean, you've been involved in a multitude of different ways. You've managed. How'd you get into everything? I mean, I don't know your origin story. I met you. You've always had a couple years on me, so I've always kind of looked up to you as like a elder statesman in the game.
Like a big brother type
thing?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I always go to you I remember going to you for advice and shit when like, but what, I don't know your origin story. I never like heard about like how you got to be Eddie Esquire.
West Philadelphia, born and raised. So I guess you can start after college. I went to college, Virginia State, HBCU. Came back home, was going to law school. During law school, was trying to figure out what I was going to practice. Thought it was going to be sports, law. Wasn't really in love with that field. around the same time, I started doing security at the spot called Empire Liquors. Started meeting a bunch of different people. Started meeting a bunch of DJs, artists, and all that. Started hearing their stories about what they were getting into contractually, and I was like, all right, I think I found my niche. I need to focus on entertainment. So last couple years of law school, just went heavy on IP, started learning up everything on copyrights, trademarks, started going to a bunch of panels. You remember CMJ?
Yeah.
I used to go to like CMJ, now like AC3.
CMJ, does that still happen?
No, it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
but
you just pulled me back with that one.
Yeah, but they used to have
that was a big thing. That was almost like a
huge, and they used to have so many dope panels where I could go in there and just like start learning the insides of a lot of this stuff. Because I mean, you can learn a contract, you can learn how to read it, but unless you know how this industry actually works, you can't really do your job. So those panels were really helpful in like meeting the right people to just be honed in on my craft, you know. So then from there, met up with these guys called BBU, started DJing for them.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you were BBU's DJ.
Yeah, I was DJing for like around like Lollapalooza days when we did all that.
Yeah, I mean that was like a big deal if you were even like Chicago adjacent, which I grew up Chicago adjacent. So it was like,
gotcha.
I just remember BBU coming through was like the most exciting thing that had happened to that point.
Yeah,
so
we
were
pretty
right in
live.
the center of that.
Yeah, and then also at the same time like handling the legal on that. You know
That's
what
like
I'm
the weirdest like hash mark, I think.
Yeah, so it was like we'd be at shows and the rider would be off. They'd be like, talk to the lawyer, and I'd be like, what's good?
Like, were you wearing like a suit? Like,
no, I would be dressed just like this, like
DJ in a suit and tie,
pulling out the rider. Like, hold on, bro, we definitely agreed to the 24 case. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but no, it just gave me a good experience working up from like the manager end of that, and then also on the music end, learning about touring, being on shows, and all that. So, just started giving me like a well-rounded education on entertainment. You know what I'm saying?
So I can relate. Like I remember coming, like I didn't know what to write. I was writing about sports too when I was like in high school and stuff. And I remember falling into the whole thing as well, like meeting kids these days and falling into it that way. So it is interesting when like something you just kind of like catches you rather than you catching it, I guess. Like you talking about working at the door and it just kind of like happened. It seems like that's kind of been like
it kind of happened, but then it was also like me reading this Russell Simmons book, Do You, and like him talking about his origin, and he was like, yeah, I got into entertainment. My first job was being a door guy because everybody had to know who the door guy was, so that's how I started.
I think I've heard
getting known.
That
so
makes
I was
sense.
like,
yeah.
And then one of the first parties I work at Empire is like St. Alfred's anniversary party. So they had Mano, Hollywood, and the Cool Kids performing. So it was like when they were just starting to go.
Yeah, when that was
so like that's my first introduction to the entertainment. I'm meeting these guys and then building a relationship with them. So it's just like I came in at the right time almost.
Yeah, I mean timing is like half that game. So you talked a bit about like going to these panels and stuff. I know you do a lot of panels now. Like you're always at A3C every year.
Did South by a couple years.
Yeah. Is that kind of from starting like that? Is it like kind of trying to pay it forward like to the next person who might be the next Esquire sitting in the
that I always wanted to give back. I mean, in that aspect, I try and give back to the actual artists that I'm working with so that they're more educated on this. But when it comes to the panels, it's one thing of also letting people know I'm good at this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right.
Coming into the game, I wasn't working for a firm. I was just out here on my own. So it was sort of like a little validation, like, all right, this kid actually knows the game.
It's kind of like pulling from that entertainment background, right? Like you kind of have to go show and prove at some point.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
you gotta
like,
put your face out there. It's kind of the same as being an artist, right?
As an artist, you're like, all right, I did Pitchfork, I did Lollapalooza, I did this. Now you stand on that when you try and go get shows. So I would have something to stand on as well. Like, yo, spoke at South by, spoke at A3C. Like,
no, it makes sense. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So no, like.
So what the fuck you talking about?
Right. No. So I mean. So it's cool on the validation, but then also like, I give back to the artists. You know, I make sure that they're educated on what's going on, and then, I mean, I haven't run into anybody that wants to do this yet. Like no young homie that have been like, yo man, I'm trying to learn entertainment.
You got Joe. I mean Joe, right?
I mean, but no, he's not like a young homie. He's well established.
He is well established.
What he has going on.
Old
you know
now,
yeah, I'm right from.
I've known him since like we were a lot younger when he was first starting. So
true.
You're right. He is like doing his thing.
I'm thinking
Shout
of
out Joe, Backpack Lawyer.
I mean, wait, don't be shouting out other lawyers while this is my show.
This is his show.
So
don't contact that guy.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're
Unless
watching, hi. That's it.
shout out Joe. Unless it's a personal injury situation, then go holler at Joe.
Yeah, because you don't.
Yeah, don't touch it. But all the entertainment, bring that over here.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
cool.
All right, we got it. Do you want to get your email out real quick?
No, I think we can put that out with the Twitter link and everything. We'll make sure the layout looks pretty nice.
All right. Yeah,
cool.
we'll get some consulting on that.
Awesome.
What's like some stories from back in the day that like now it feels like, I don't know, maybe I'm getting old too, but now it feels like things have slowed down a little bit. We had that heyday. You talked about the early part of it with like Mano and everybody. We've seen it like crest and fall over the years, but right now it seems like it's pretty open. It's like there's not anybody like standing at the top. Chance has obviously ascended. There's a bunch of other guys on that too. What's like your favorite story though from kind of maneuvering through? Like seeing so much from so many different angles. I guess
the finessing at South by.
Like, the legendary finessing.
Yeah, it's like all the Chicago kids finessing into all the shows at the South by. So I think like I enjoyed that.
What was your first South by?
What was my first South by? Oh, first South by was when I was with BBU. So I want to say 2009, 2010, something like that.
And you've gone most every year since?
Yeah, I didn't go last year.
Okay.
But I've been pretty much. So the first couple years were me as a DJ, and then the last couple was me as a lawyer doing panels.
But the way you talk about Chicago at South by is so true. Cause like, and I feel like by the time I got there, it was already like, I remember 2012, 2013, I felt like everybody there was from Chicago.
Yeah, because it was like you made friends with people from Chicago in Austin.
Yeah.
And then you came back home and was like, oh, yeah. You
know what I mean?
You snuck into Faderford with me. Word, all right.
But there was like nobody from Texas at South by as far as I was concerned. It was like you go down there, and everyone was in like leaders hoodies and
that's the thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people from Texas out there, but Chicago was such in a bubble of just like, oh, it's just the homies and we're moving that we didn't even notice. Everyone else, we considered it our territory.
Yeah, it might as well have just been like a Chicago festival, especially that year they did like the Fake Shore Drive and the whole thing with Chance and everyone Show You Suck and all that. What was it, like 2013?
Yeah,
like
with Master P.
Yeah, Master P was there. They had the whole thing like camped out in the back over there. That was a nice time.
I used to use so many like ill finesse lines, like for the one when Chance and Social Experiments did Fader.
Oh yeah.
Told security I was like Hannibal Burris' lawyer or something like that because Hannibal had just walked in. I was like, yo, I'm with these guys. They're like, well, his lawyer.
What would you call it? What would you say is like your best finesse?
Man,
that's a hard one.
The hard one, the funniest one was like almost like 3 years ago. We were down there for just going to see Tanashi, Khalid, and somebody else. We really weren't going to see them, but the line was crazy. Yeah. So we just walked to the back. We don't even walk to the door. We walk to this back door, and we're like, yeah, where's the artist interest? They're like, what? Where's the artist interest with Tanashi? They get on the walkie. They're like, oh, you have to go around this way. Didn't even check us. Just it was like, oh, word.
Just got like the full.
Yeah, gave us the full. They're like, oh, here you go. And then they lead us right onto stage. I look up like, oh, no, we shouldn't be here. Then we just walk into the venue. And the rest of the homies are like, bro, how did you pull that off? I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't even know that was going to work.
Do you feel like it's like partially like, are you throwing like some law vernacular out here?
No,
like
it's just knowing from doing security, knowing what they need to hear to be like, all right, you're cool. Go ahead. Yeah.
Usually I feel like it's just kind of keeping your mouth shut long enough and looking the part.
Looking the part and knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Knowing a couple names are important, you know?
I feel that, yeah.
And not coming in too overbearing, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you come in like start just saying, I need this.
Yeah, if you come in demanding, I don't care who you are, brother. You're not going.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about what you got coming up. I mean, you talk about like these, like having your pitchforks and having your talking things and having these like points. What are some stuff you want to get done? Like, is there a talk you've been keeping your eye out on? Is there something that, like something that's like your Everest that you're trying to get to?
In the process of putting together a book.
Yeah.
So working on that.
What kind of book is that?
Just a more artist-friendly understanding of copyrights.
That's like a copyright Bible. So.
You know what I'm saying? So just more artist-friendly, easier digestible, more creative way to teach the copyright, you know? So working on that. South by, of course, again this year. More contracts, more deals. Starting to see a lot more. There are more deals for Chicago artists out here, so working on those.
How do you feel about that, though? I got into a whole back and forth on Twitter yesterday or the other day about people saying that, like, Chicago never took off. And they were blaming it on, they were trying to say something about drill and
there was no
talent, but
no.
I would say it's more the business side.
Yeah, it was
right?
all business.
Yeah.
Like, there's more talent here than any other
That's what
city.
I was saying, yeah.
Yeah, it was more infrastructure based. It wasn't the pieces around to actually nurture these artists.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to outsource all of that. So all these other cities, even though Chicago got a spotlight, all the money went to LA and New York. And
also, like, what you said, Miami?
Like Atlanta,
I felt like, I don't know. I felt like everybody in Miami sounded like Superboy for a while.
Oh, I mean, like,
kind of frustrating.
Yeah, when you say Miami, then that whole Tallahassee,
the whole Florida shit.
Yeah. So I mean, like, across the board, most of the music you hear has a Chicago origin to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I've always felt, and like it had nothing to do with the talent. But do you feel like the infrastructure has like gotten better? Like,
it's getting a little better because
what could be done too to strengthen it?
More resources.
How so?
So I mean, anytime a song goes out, there's a lot of things that go around that song needing. You know what I'm saying? Somebody has to do the contracts for the song. Somebody has to get the song placed. Somebody has to talk about the song. Somebody has to write about the song.
Right.
Somebody has to make sure the royalties for the song are collected. All these other facets around the song that need to be done. Chicago needs to have those services to provide for the artists, so they don't have to necessarily go to New York, go to LA to get that service done. So everything stays within the city. You know what I'm saying? And then also on like a branding aspect of it, not even just for artists, but when we see all these different pop-ups and these different activations within brands, they're being hired from a New York or LA company.
Right.
Then that New York company is coming in saying like, hey, who are the tastemakers in Chicago, giving them a little bit of change, and then them putting on a great event, and then the New York guys walking away with the bag.
Right.
As opposed to anytime there's a Chicago activation, we come directly to Chicago and give them the bag, not splitting it up with anybody else because nobody else knows about us better than we do, you know?
Yeah, and and it's
right.
We were just having that, me and Mike Cole, I were just having that talk before we started here today, and it's like, you know, it's frustrating, but I feel like it also, you know, sometimes in Chicago you get that like crabs in a barrel mentality too. That happened like that.
That happened earlier.
I don't think it's happening as much now.
Now we're starting to see the people that are in power, the people getting power, people that are starting to get power in the city, starting to make better decisions and starting to be more communal.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
a lot of more people are starting to work together, especially within the artists. So now you're starting to see the business side starting to work together, and it's going to take some time. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but I see progress. You know what I'm saying? It's not the old Chicago how it used to be, where the gatekeepers were holding on to what they had and not telling anybody about.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and also, I mean, we're sitting here at closed sessions, local record
label,
labels, doing exactly
like,
what you said, getting these people out. Jack Larson just got a new project out recently, doing a lot of cool things there. But, yeah, man, I don't know. Anything you want to get off your chest before we get you out of here? And
get off my chest. I hope the Bears sign Colin Kaepernick.
Man, can we talk about this for a second? I was about to get out of it. They're not on the list right now to send a guy down, and I'm upset that they aren't even going to send a guy. Like, we can't send Mitch. We could just send Trubisky down there to check out because we don't need him for the game.
But the thing is, honestly, they're not going to – anybody that signs him is not playing this year. So it'd be too much to throw at him for him to come in.
You think so?
Yeah, like they're looking at him.
They were talking like some coaches, though, he's worked with and stuff like that.
Like he's ready to play football.
But, yeah, he doesn't know an offense.
Yeah, to throw him out there like that would be a bad look on him. Like, come on. So 2020 is what they're really looking for. Right. And I think it's right now, I'm looking at this like a PR stunt. Like,
yeah, I was going to say that next. Was how do you feel about like the whole way they set it up? Because like there's a lot of stuff about like it being on a Saturday. And it's usually the workouts are usually on Tuesdays, and everyone's traveling, and then, like giving me like a week's notice, and like a lot of that stuff. Just it seems like it's a half-hearted endeavor.
Yeah, you think about it like when they're like, "Hey man, can you get here in the next 2 minutes?"
Like, yeah, like it's been 3 years, but
right. They're like, and you're just sitting at home waiting, like, man, hope I get this job. And they're like, "Hey man, if you want this job, you need to get here in the next 5 minutes." You're like, man, you know I live 20 minutes away, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Sorry.
I know, but as far as the Bears are concerned, if they're not sending someone down there, there might be a few fans short next season.
Man.
This dude is such a joke.
It's just Chicago sports is sad right now. What the problem is, we need another Chicago anthem. We need some more Chicago anthems from these Chicago artists. Yes, man. Like if you think about whenever these championships were being won, we had these Chicago anthems going. We need another.
Like which one?
We need another Finito out there. We need something like that to rally.
Were we winning anything with Finito?
Well, the Blackhawks were going crazy.
Oh shit, that's right. Blackhawks were winning. I forgot about that. So the Blackhawks.
Cubs recently won a championship.
Let's not talk about that though.
Cubs won.
I still think the Cubs opened a ripple in time that we weren't supposed to be in, and now we're in an alternate reality where Trump's president.
That's crazy.
I think like if the Cubs never won, Trump doesn't win the presidency in the week after that, and then everything's cool.
That was really close to each other, man. You might be onto something. That was actually one of my best finesses as well. After they won, I snuck into Murphy's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I ended up on Fox.
Really?
Yeah.
That shit was, I couldn't even get down to that, man. I remember it was like just walking downtown, people were doing like trust falls off buildings and shit. And I was like, when the Sox won, everyone just got kind of drunk, you know?
Oh, see, yeah, my homie lived at the time on Sheffield, so we were like.
Oh, you were like in the heat of it?
We were in the mix. Like they weren't even letting people walk in.
They had it like blocked off
like,
on the sides, right?
So we were just chilling at his crib for.
That's just wild. It sounded like a fucking war zone up there at that time. But no, I think you're right. I think we do need more anthems. We haven't had like a homecoming, like Kanye homecoming type shit. Like,
I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
once we get these
get
anthems,
on that, man. You got the ear of the artist.
Yeah. So now I need to add A&R to my service.
A&R, or I mean, shit. Just bring back Mr. Goodbar. You could get the.
I'm not doing that, man. I'm not doing that.
We're gonna figure it out someday. We're gonna convince you, but
you see, the bag got to be right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I've seen these contracts. I know what these numbers look like. Like I need a bag to get in the booth. You know what I'm saying?
All right, yeah. We'll see if we can get Mike to sort.
Will you manage me?
Over here. Huh?
You manage me, right?
I mean, if there's still good bars, I don't know. They're rusty, so.
That was a joke, right? He was trying to. Good bars are always ready, man. Don't do that, man. Just because I'm retired doesn't mean I don't have it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're always good bars.
Yeah, I just choose.
Of course, man. We could definitely get something worked out. I think you'd have to handle the contract.
Yeah, I want the rest of the creators to eat, man. Like, that'd be selfish of me to be taking over 2 fields like that. Like,
that's real. Yeah, you can't do everything.
Come on,
it's
man.
Not fair at all.
Just trying to play my part. You know?
Hey, man, I appreciate you. You're a true Chicago legend.
No doubt, bro. Thank you for that.
This has been Mild Sauce Live. I'm Jay Krez.
I'm Eddie Sanders.
And we'll be back again soon, man. Thank you so much for coming out.
No doubt. Peace.
Mild Sauce.